Alright, today we're going to deal with solving systems applications. So basically looking at word problems, writing the two equations, remember to find your keywords, and then solving for one of the variables. And then we're going to solve these by graphing, which we'll probably have to do in class. So number 1, the perimeter of a rectangular wooden deck is 90 feet. The deck's length, L, is 5 feet less than 4 times its width, W. What is the length of the deck? Now, notice here I have length, which I'm going to use the letter L, and I have width, which I'm going to use the letter W. So let's look at the first sentence. Perimeter, that's a key word that you guys know means 2L plus 2W. The next key word I see is the word is, 90 feet. So I have 2L plus 2W is 90 feet. There's our first equation. Now for the second equation, the length is. Well, length is the letter L. Is, I know, means equals. 5 feet less than. Now I know that less than means to subtract, but I also know that it means I have to switch the order. So what comes first then is 4 times the width. Well, how do I write 4 times width? Hopefully you're saying 4 times W minus the 5 feet. I have two equations, and I'm going to solve this by graphing to figure out what the length is, okay, which is what they are asking for. So they're specifically asking, what is the length, okay? I need to solve for a letter. Notice one of the equations already has L solved for. So I'm just going to take the second equation and solve for L, and then we can use our calculator when we get to class. So first I box the variable that we're solving for, which in this case is L. I get rid of that 2W by subtracting 2W to both sides. We bring down what's in our box, so we get 2L. We cancel what was beside it, equals negative 2W plus 90. Now our last step is to divide everything by 2, because that's the number inside of our box, and we end up with L equals negative 1W plus 45. So now we have our two equations, 1 and 1. Okay, so when we have them in class, we'll be able to use our calculator, plug it in y equals, look at the graph, see where they intersect, and to figure out what is the L. Number 2, Lon caught 24 trout and bass while on a fishing trip. The total weight of his catch was 137 pounds. The average weight of a trout was 2.5 pounds, and the average weight of a bass was 8 pounds. How many trout fish did Lon catch? Notice they specifically only want to know how many trout did he catch. But we do have to figure this out, and we're going to end up finding both answers. So let's use the letter T for trout and the letter B for the bass. So the first sentence says that he caught 24 trout and bass. Hopefully we remember that the word and means plus. So how do I write that he has 24 total fish and it's trout and bass? Well, trout and bass is a total of 24. Now I know the second equation is going to deal with the weight. And it says right here the total weight, so that means the weight equals 137. Well, does it tell us how much each fish weighs? You bet. Trout is 2.5 pounds, and, which means plus, the bass was 8 pounds. So we have 2.5 for the trout and 8 pounds for the bass, and it equals a total of 137. There's our two equations. All we're going to do right now is go ahead and just solve for y, so that way we already have it done. So here we get to choose what letter do we want to solve for. Whichever one you pick, there's no right or wrong answer, okay? Let's say we go with the letter B. So I'm going to box that variable. I'm going to get rid of the positive t by subtracting t. We end up with b equals negative t plus 24. There's our first equation. Now for the second equation, same exact concept. First, remember, we always pick the same letter, K. So we said b, so we're solving for b. We subtract 2.5t to both sides. Okay, and then we end up with 8b equals negative 2.5t plus 137. My last step, you all know, is to divide by the number inside of our box to everything. And we end up with b equals, I'm just going to leave this part as a fraction, negative 2.5 divided by 8t. But let's see, does 137 divided by 8 reduce? It does reduce, but it's another ugly fraction, so I'm just going to leave it 137 divided by 8. We have our two equations. When we get to class, we'll use our calculator, put this in y equals, and see where the two lines intersect so we can figure out how many trout there are completely. Number 3, which graph best represents a solution to the system of equations? So notice what I went ahead and did was I wrote the two equations out because I obviously need to solve for y in order to figure out which ones look the same. Okay, so let's solve for y on the first one. First I box my variable, and it's always, in this case, the y value. I'm going to subtract 2x to both sides because that's doing the opposite. We cancel what's beside it. We get negative 3y equals negative 2x. Do I have to write plus 0? No. My last step is to divide everything by negative 3, and I end up with y equals positive 2/3 x. Now in this, you should be able to tell me what is the slope and what's the y-intercept. The y-intercept is 0, right? The slope is 2/3. Remember, what does that slope mean if it's 2/3? Hopefully you guys recall that it means we're going to go up 2 and to the right 3. Now let's solve the second equation. Same exact concept, box around my variable. We cancel a positive x by subtracting x to both sides. We end up canceling what's beside our box. We get 2y equals negative 1x minus 7. Last step, divide everything by 2. We get y equals negative 1/2 x minus 7 over 2. The slope, negative 1 over 2, which means the directions are to go down 1 to the right 2. And then the y-intercept here is a fraction, negative 7 over 2. Now, of the two lines, which one do you think is easier, okay, for us to find? Hopefully you all agree that this line is easier because the y-intercept is 0. So that's pretty simple. So let's look at the first answer choice, A. And do you see a y-intercept of 0? I do. And is that line a positive slope? Because that's what we have here. We have a positive slope. That means a line is going uphill. And we do have that on answer choice A. So let's see if it's true. If we go up to right 3, do we end up on that line? Up to right 3. Nope, that is not on that line, so therefore that's not the right answer. So let's try the next one, option B. I see the y-intercept of 0, but that line's going downhill, and I know that it's supposed to be going uphill because the slope here is positive. So I know that's automatically wrong. So let's look at the next two. Okay, so let's see if we have it here. There is the y-intercept of 0, but again, this line is going downhill when I know it's supposed to be going uphill because the slope is a positive number. So that's not right. So let's just make sure that D, our last one, is correct. There's a y-intercept. The line is going uphill, so far check, it's good. But let's see if it's going up right. Up 2, to the right 3. And that is correct, so that's the right answer. Number 4. Question is asking, what is the x-coordinate? Notice they only want to know one answer specifically, okay, of the solution to the system of the linear equation below. Now, lucky for you, we're actually going to end up finding both, but remember, the final answer only wants one of the answers, which is the x value. So notice, first thing I need to do here is I need to solve for y. So first I box my variable, cancel what's beside it. We get 5y equals negative 4x plus 8. My last step is to divide everything by 5. And we get y equals negative 4 over 5x plus 8 over 5 because you can't reduce it. So there's our first answer. Now let's do the second equation. Same exact concept. First I box my variable. I'm going to subtract 2x. The reason why I subtract 2x to both sides is because that's the opposite of positive 2x. Bring down what's in my box, and I bring down both the negative 2x and the, not plus, the minus 18. Why? Because you cannot combine those. They're not alike. Last step, divide everything by the number inside the box. And we end up with y equals, negative negative gives me a positive 2/3 x. Negative negative gives me a positive, and that actually reduces to 6. There's our two equations. When we get to class, we'll graph this in our calculator, find where they intersect. Remember, our solution is always written as a point, right? X, y. The only answer we need is this one because that's the one they specifically, okay, are asking for right here. Okay, they're asking for the x-coordinate. We're going to write the two equations because, again, we're coming from a word problem. Find your keywords, okay, and then we'll be able to do this. The second part we'll solve here, but then we'll do the graphing part in class. So the equation says, or the problem says, a large cheese pizza at Palazzo's Pizzeria costs $6.80 plus 90 cents for each topping. The cost of a large pizza at Guido's Pizza is $7.30 plus 65 cents for each topping. How many toppings need to be added to a large pizza from Palazzo's Pizzeria and Guido's Pizza in order for the pizzas to cost the same? So they're basically asking, where's their intersection? Okay, when are they the same? Well, we have to write the equation. Now, the two things that we have here are y, which will be the total amount of money that it costs, and x seems to be representing the toppings on our pizza. Okay, so our first equation, okay, is going to be Palazzo's. So the total equals, so it says the cost is $6.80 plus 90 cents for each, and I know each means to multiply, each topping, which is x. Now, Guido's Pizza, the second equation, is going to be y equals, okay, Guido's is, so his total cost is $7.30 plus 65 cents per topping, for each topping. Okay, lucky for us, these are already solved for y. You guys see that? They're already set right. So all we got to do when we get to class is use our calculator. Okay, we're going to find our answer. But remember, they're asking for a specific question, right? They're asking how many toppings. So what value do they want to know then specifically? All they want to know is what is our x value. So what is this value right here? Okay, and when we find our intersection, we'll be able to write that down and grid it. For here, okay, let me go ahead and read it first. At Ivory's Icy Igloo, Maria makes X pints of cherry icy for Y dollars. The table below shows the revenue and expenses of her business. How many pints of cherry icy will she need to sell to break even? Now, when it says break even, it basically means when will they be the same? Or, in other words, where is their intersection. Now, hopefully we remember that whenever you have a table, right, we can actually use our calculator by using stat, right, to find out what the equations are, okay? So if we use stat, remember stat gives us y equals mx plus b. So we're going to actually do this problem in class because we're going to use our calculator by using stat, okay, to figure out what the two equations are. Once we have the two equations, you guys know we can solve this by graphing in our calculator, and we can find where do the 2 points intersect, right, which gives us this, the x value and the y value, okay? And her question is, how many pints of cherry icy? Now, cherry icy is what letter? X, okay? So that's the value then that we're going to be looking for our final answer. What we need to do here is write the two equations, remember, keywords, okay, and then we'll solve this by graphing. So, a clothing store kept a record of the number of shirts and jackets purchased during the weekend, along with the total sales for each day. Write and solve a system of equations that can be used to find the price of a shirt, S, and a jacket, J. So notice they already tell us what letters to use, and our two equations are going to be based on this information, okay? So notice I have Saturday in blue and Sunday in red. Now, how much is a t-shirt on, or how many t-shirts did they sell on Saturday? 32. So I have 32S and, right, and I sold jackets, and there's 15 jackets that I sold, which is 15J, and I made a total of 1601. Alright, now the second equation, Sunday, the numbers are a little different. I have 28 shirts that I sold and 21 jackets for a total of $2,051. Now, all I have to do is solve for y, or in this case, pick a letter because I don't have x or y. Now, if you wanted to, we could change the s to x, the j to y. Doesn't matter, but we got to pick one. So let's say I'm going to solve for j. Solving for j, subtract 32s to both sides. We end up with 15j equals negative 32s plus 1601. My last step, you guys know, is to divide by the number inside the box, which is 15. Now I'm going to leave these numbers like these fractions so that we can deal with them when we get to class. So the first equation is j equals negative 32 over 15s plus 1601 divided by 15. There's our first equation. Now let's work on the second equation. Same exact concept. First I box my variable. We get rid of the 28s by subtracting 28s to both sides. We end up with 21j equals negative 28s plus 2051. Last step, you guys know it, divide by the number inside your box, and we end up with j equals negative 28 over 21s plus 2051 divided by 21. Like I said, next time in class we'll actually we'll reduce those fractions if we can. Okay? Two equations, we can use our calculator to figure out how much is the price for one shirt and for one jacket, okay, which is what they're asking for. So what is the intersection? Alright, number 8. So, the question is, decide whether or not negative 3 comma negative 4 is a solution of the system. Show how you determine this. Well, what we're basically going to do is we're going to take our values and we're going to plug them in. So we're going to plug in negative 3 for x, and then we're going to plug in negative 4 for y, because that's what we know if we're given this type of situation, okay? And we want to check to see if it's true. So for the first one, I have 4 times x minus 7 times y equals 16. Well, x is supposed to be negative 3. Y is supposed to be negative 4. Now all I got to do is simplify. So it's just basic math. 4 times negative 3, negative 12, plus 28 equals 16. Well, I can combine these two terms because they're alike. Negative 12 plus 28 is 16. 16 equals 16. This is true. So now we need to work out the next problem. Okay, and we're doing it the exact same way. Negative 6 times x plus y equals 14. All right, well, x is supposed to be negative 3, y is negative 4. Okay, let's see what we get when we multiply. Negative 6 times negative 3 is 18 plus a negative 4 equals 14. Remember, we can combine 18 plus a negative 4, which actually gives us 14. 14 does equal 14, so therefore this is true. So what we discovered is these two equations, this system, okay, their intersection is this point right here because, all right, because they were both true when we plugged them in, okay? So anytime you actually have this type of problem and you have a list of answer choices, you can always just take the answer choice and plug it into your two equations and see if it's true to figure out if the answer is right or wrong, okay? That's pretty much it for today. Like I said, we'll finish up those other problems in class by using our calculator. Hopefully you guys understood. See y'all later. Bye.